and we were talking about our relationship and our dynamic. We have literally been best friends for 20 years now, and it's crazy to think about, but for 20 years, and to see how he's navigated through life and the ups and downs of life, that we have both experienced, but then both of us experiencing those things, and then both of us being there for each other during those times. And so tonight, man, we're going to allow our testimonies and our transparency, and also just the conversations about grief and traumatic grief, and how we have continued to try to move forward dealing with these things. And so we'll tell a little bit about our story and about the background of our story in lines of this grief dialogue. So thank you guys for being on. Thank you for being a part of this good grief session that we have. This thing is totally free. There's no catch at the end of it. If you want to sow a seed, please do. You see the Cash App information down there. A few of y'all have the Zelle information. Few of you all have the PayPal information. We welcome seeds, but this is a free form, and we doing this because we felt a need for it, to be totally honest. And so let's get into it. So Pastor Chris, man, you experienced a major traumatic grief loss with
Yeah.
the loss of your sister.
Yes.
How, what happened? How was that whole process? And what did you feel? Because we're going to get it to this point. What did you feel up until, let's say, 3 months after Tina's passing? Like, what were your feelings up until that point?
So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me tonight, and I get to share just a little bit about good grief. I didn't mean to be rude a few minutes ago. People were texting me like, "Man, bro, I need the link. I need the link." You know how people do, and I was trying to send that out just a few
For
minutes
sure.
ago. So that's what I was up to.
For sure.
Before I talk about her, I got to go back 3 years before that. And a lot of people don't know that I have nieces and nephews, but there's four of them, but it started with five. A lot of people don't know that. And in 2013, my sister gave birth to a baby girl by the name of Sanaya.
Mm-hmm.
And Sanaya was a precious jewel, man. She was amazing baby.
Hey, Chris,
And she,
wait a minute, hold on. They saying that they having a hard time hearing you.
hold on.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna try to
What about
make sure,
now?
I'm gonna make sure I got my volume levels up over here.
Can they hear me? I turned my laptop up.
Hold on.
Mic check, mic check.
They said it's about the same.
Hmm.
Hold on. I'm I got your audio up on my end. Let me see if okay, y'all, they're saying they hear me well, but they're saying yours is low.
They can't hear me?
Let me see. Let me see if I can do it.
Mic check, mic check. One, two. Do I need to lean up?
Yeah, you probably need to lean up a little bit. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's better.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Get better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, then. Can they hear me? We
yeah,
good?
yeah. So
Okay, cool,
they just
cool.
saying you need to lean in closer to the device.
Well, I'm leaning in closer to the device. Yeah, man. So if I look crazy, don't they
Oh no,
don't
I
judge
can't.
me.
No, no, I got you. I'm gonna pan you out a little bit, but it's all good.
All right. All right. Appreciate it because I'm leaning in a little close and I might have an eye booger or something. I'm gonna make sure I'm good. Yeah. Anyway, so man, a lot of people don't know that it wasn't four, it was five. 2013 was a interesting year for my family because it was already a transitional period. And what I mean by that is, I learned a lot of things that was transpiring. Do I need to start over? Because I think they missed the first part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
go over it. Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying earlier is, um, my sister is one of those people that I absolutely love. My baby sister, grew up in the same house, 6 years apart. Because I was considered and is still considered the man of the house, my role was just always different. So for my mom's house, I'm the oldest of two, and I have always been taught that I'm the man of the house since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
So the way that I thought, the way that I taught, the way that things transpired, I was a young man thinking from that lens. With that being said, my sister wasn't just my sister. My sister was also like my little one. You know what I'm saying? Good night, baby. All right, hurry up. All right. So you already know who that was. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
so in the process of building that particular relationship, man, anytime my sister had anything major, she will always come to me, no matter what it is. Every decision. When my oldest niece was born, I was in college. Well, yeah, I was in college, and no, she told me she was pregnant. She was 15, and she didn't know how to tell me. And when she told me, I remember walking down. If you're from Huntsville, I walked from, let's just say St. Luke Baptist Church, all the way to Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University. That's at least, driving is so far, like 3 miles. Walking, it was about 20. I was strolling, you know what I'm
That boy
saying?
took the
But she,
longest walk ever.
took a long walk. You hear me? Man,
Yes.
I was heated, but at the same time, I appreciate her explaining that to me. The second time she got pregnant, my sister was a fighter. She got to fighting, and she found out while she was in jail that she was pregnant with my nephew Christian. So I went for another long walk. So I'm like, listen, man, look, so I'm gonna have to give. What is going on? Because I wasn't there at the time, but she was telling me what was up. The third time was with Cameron, then Sanaya. And what had transpired in 2013, she was going through a transitional period. And what transpired was, she had my niece. My niece was beautiful, amazing, baby girl. I came home to visit, and I was hanging out with some friends. And I did that every weekend for at least 3 months.
Yeah.
One day, my sister called me and said, Chris, I need you to get here as soon as you can. I was living, we were living together. I think we was in Huntsville. No, we was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We was in Atlanta at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, what's up? She said, I need you to get to Chattanooga as fast as you can. And I remember driving here, and she said, meet me at the hospital. She couldn't stop crying. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? We get to Park Ridge Hospital, and she hands me my niece, and my niece is dead. And I saw my sister break from that point. My niece passed away from SIDS. So it was devastating to be the man of the house, big brother, and trying to figure out how to cope in a moment that I had never lived in before.
Yeah.
So I started to see a break in my sister at that moment, and the capacity for which she could handle stuff began to really break my heart. So man, she started taking the drugs. It was just all kind of stuff happening, man. And I remember 3 years later that she just couldn't. Depression had set in, stress had set in, anxiety had kicked in. All this stuff had happened, and I remember when it's been a while since I told the story, and I still ain't told it in front of people. So I'm trying to be cautious in how I say it because sometimes talking about your trauma reveals certain things in your heart. So there's still some healing that needs to take place there. but I thank God I'm not where I used to be in that. With that said, I remember getting a call from her that evening. My nephew was acting up. He came to at this time Mississippi to live with me, and she was like, "I want to see my baby. I want to see Fad." I was like, "Okay." So we Facetime. They talking. Hey, how you doing? Be good for Uncle Chris. Da da da. They talking, having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last words he heard from his mother was, "Hey, be good for your Uncle Chris. I love you. Do what he say." I get the phone. Same thing happened. Hey, Chris, I love you. I see y'all in the morning. 4 hours later, she died. It was the craziest thing ever. And driving back from Hattiesburg, Mississippi to Chattanooga, Tennessee was the longest drive I have ever had in my life. I was playing Jacqueline Carr on the way back, and my nephew can recite this song to this day. You're bigger, and I had to come up with that the whole time I was here. And can I be transparent for just a moment?
Yeah, bro. That's what we here
Uh,
for.
listen, it's hard to give a pastor or a preacher scriptures when they're going through because they know the word. Everybody had a word for me when I couldn't have a word for myself. Like everybody, oh man, this too shall pass, and you know what I'm saying, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. I almost cussed everybody out that said that. From apostles to bishops to lay people. That's so daggone ignorant and insensitive.
Yes, sir.
I was so upset. Like, I'm grieving with my family, and you giving me some scriptures. Watch this, out of context.
Yeah.
And you have
Out
the
of
mitigated
context.
gall, right? You have the mitigated gall to try to tell me. That moment in my life was so devastating, challenging, and I was like, man, how in the world am I gonna raise kids? And I've never been a father like this before.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what in the world? Tremaine just texted me, so he know. I'm like, dude, like, bro, I have no idea
Yeah.
how in the world we finna. I have no clue.
Yeah.
So man, I was a lot of times in our culture, we taught a man not supposed to cry, a man supposed to do this. Man, listen, that's baloney. That's some bull crap. Because if I didn't release, I would have broke a long time ago.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So the process in that moment was I had to remain calm so that I can break later on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I had to step up in that moment because mama breaking down because her baby girl gone, her only girl gone.
Yeah.
You know, that we I grew up in the house with my mom, my grandmama, my sister, and myself. So it's just my mom and I left. So she's literally processing that in that moment. It's a house full of people, and I felt like the only two people that mattered in the room was my mother and the person that I was talking to at the time, because of the fact that they was the two closest to me that understood all the dynamics that was happening at that time until you got there, until a few other people got there, that I could be like,
Yeah.
Dale, my big brother came and got me and just
Yeah.
walked me down the street.
Yeah.
I'm saying all this to say because a lot of times we don't allow people when they're grieving to start to really think through what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we don't process well. So because we don't process well, our heart never heals well. There isn't an opportunity for us to really deal in how we feel, because I know there are people that are listening right now that are just like me. We have compounded trauma from other issues that we did not deal with.
Ooh. Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So not only am I grieving my sister, I'm still replaying 2013 in the moments of my niece passing away, me holding her in my hands, me getting prepared for her funeral, doing her eulogy. I'm going through all this stuff in my head. And watch this. That was 2013. My niece's godmother just passed, and I ain't tell you this. Sunday. No, not Sunday. What was that? 2 days ago.
What?
Sanaya's godmother passed away 2 days ago. And guess what? I'm eulogizing her next Sunday.
Oh my God.
Yes. So we don't allow people to grieve, and we smother, we say the wrong things, not realizing that people have compounded trauma that they have to figure out how to process in this particular moment so that they can be healed and be whole to be who they're called to be.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna stop there for right now because it's,
So
it's so much. It's
I,
so much right here.
yeah, it is, bro. And you know, you talked about that compounding trauma, and I remember, when you called me about Tina, and I was in Huntsville, and you said you were on your way to Chattanooga, and I I just remember stopped what I was doing, grabbed some clothes, and actually I don't even think I went. I think I was at the church. I don't think I remember grabbing clothes. I just remember getting on the road, and I met you in chat, and
Yeah.
I remember us standing on the back porch of
Yes.
Tina's house,
Yes.
and and I think that a lot of times whenever we're dealing with grief, or whenever we're dealing with the initial shock of someone that we love passing through traumatic events, through one day us seeing them and then the next day they're gone,
Yes.
or us talking to them, I think our problem, especially within the church dynamic, is that we're searching for the right words when there is no right word. The present, the your presence is the solidifying fact of your support, and you don't have to. I mean, we just sat on the back porch and we just sat there. Like,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit, but it wasn't like, let's find, and I think a lot of times we try to search for that aha moment, and almost,
Right.
and if we're not careful, it can be almost like an idolization where you want to have a good word to, so that you can get some type of credit to say, I helped them through that, type of situation, where it's almost like, it almost feeds our ego to be there
Right.
for people to say, oh, I had the right words for them at that present point in time, when in all actuality, it's not about your words, it's about your presence.
That's it.
it's
That's it.
literally it's literally about our presence. How well can we just be for those that we love, support, and want to see them through this particular journey or this particular walk?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
how so let me ask this, Chris. How has it been? You have constant reminders. You have everyday reminders of Tina. You are raising everyday reminders of Tina. For those that do not know, you guys are probably hearing this story for the first time. When Chris' sister passed away, he was living in Mississippi. He uprooted his life, moved from Mississippi back to Chattanooga, and started raising kids. He became a father, which, where he left off at, was saying like he's never been a father in this dynamic before, or in this particular way before. He immediately became a father and still is uncle father, and you have these everyday reminders. You have these reminders that you take to school with you, or you drop off at school. You got these reminders that you pick up. You got the reminder that just kissed you goodnight.
Literally.
you know, you know. So
Literally.
so how has that process been, bro? To
Whew.
because they are so much, I mean, of course, you know, I know Tina, I encounter Tina, love Tina, but the kids are so much like her.
Yes.
So so
All four of them
all four all of them in their own way. It's so
in
crazy.
their own way.
So how has that been? Because I want to speak to those that are dealing with grief, but then feel like, well, I can't get over grief because I'm gonna dispel the concept. I want to dispel the concept of you feeling like you got to get over it. That's
Yeah.
number one. Like I think we put, especially with an African culture and community, we put an emphasis on trying to hurry up and get through certain seasons that you just got to settle into the to the new normal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how, for somebody that constantly reminded of that loved one, or maybe, and also guys, understand this, that we're just not talking about grief tonight from the lens of just your loved one, because you can grieve an opportunity. You can grieve a city,
Facts.
you can grieve a job,
Facts.
you can grieve a relationship. So
Facts.
anything, grief is not the passing of a loved one. Grief is the breaking of any normality that you experience in your life. So that normality that you may experience, such as, I know when this person calls me, or I can call that person and be there for them, or talk to them, and then now that's not there. I go to this job, the job laid me off. Now I've been waking up for the past 10 years at a certain time going to this particular place, and now I don't have to go there anymore. That can be a
Yeah.
grief. So you could be
Yeah.
reminded of that. So Chris, how have you dealt with the constant reminder of seeing Tina every day?
I'm gonna go back to the day that Tina passed.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 6 hours to get from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. No, actually 5 and some change. From Hattiesburg, Mississippi to Chattanooga. I actually got picked up in Birmingham. This is what happened. By the time I got home, my family was at the house. I came to see my mom. Everybody was in disbelief, disarray. The house was packed. Like people was just at the house, and I remember. Excuse. I keep doing this because this is touching. Y'all, excuse me. So, um, I remember coming to the house, and the police came to the door. So I came to the door. They was like, "Hey, is such and such here?" It's like, "Yeah, they're here." Well, we need to see him. I said, "For what?" Well, we have papers, excuse me, to say that we got to take such with us. It's a custody thing. I said, "What you mean?" I said, "What you mean?" Well, we got emergency papers to take such and such. I said, "Well, no, they're not leaving this house." Well, can we see your mom or whoever? So my mama came to the door, and they gonna try to tell my mama that they was gonna take one of the kids. I did. My sister wasn't even in the ground yet. She had just passed 3 hours ago, and you had the unmitigated gall to do this. This is what happened. I made up my mind in that moment that I'm gonna sit all the family down after this is over to figure out how we're gonna do this. There was a relative that I had never met that filed a petition that I had at this time. One of my family members, one of my nieces or nephews, I ain't gonna say which one. He didn't know who they were.
Mm.
He didn't know. He was like, "Oh, I don't know." And that moment, I said, "You know what? I'm gonna have to man up, come over here, and actually raise my nieces and nephews." I said, after the funeral, I sat down all their families, because let's just be honest, they all have different fathers with different families. They all had different issues. They all come from different, you know what I'm saying, things. The common denominator was my sister.
Yeah.
I learned this in this moment. I said, Um, how we gonna do this? We need to do this. And I know everybody has their own way of doing X, Y, Z, but as a man, this is our opportunity to figure out how we're gonna do this. When I saw at first how everybody was everywhere, I made the decision to move home and face my sister every single day.
Mm.
What do I mean by face my sister every single day? To see my oldest niece, who is the spitting image of her attitude, how creative she is, that
Everything.
smart mouth that get on your nerves, just oh I can't stand you. Move somewhere, gone.
Yeah.
It I saw her. My nephew with his goofy, silly self.
Pa- Pastor Andy asked this question because I want to pause you right here. He asked this question because I know you can't see the questions. He said, at what age were the kids at this time?"
Good question. 10, 7, 4, and Trent was
Trent was
4 months. No, 6. She was 6 months.
six
6 months.
months.
She was 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, six
Trent was a
months.
baby, baby.
Trent was a baby.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Trent was a baby, bro.
Yeah, man.
And what's interesting is I had to see Christian with his goofy self act just like his mama. Cameron is the thug out of the four of them. What's up? That was my sister.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then I'm here with a 6-month old baby that went back to that 6-year old Chris who was holding his sister, who said, "I'm the big brother," and now I'm reminded of the same thing at this moment.
Yeah.
This is something that I live by from that day forward. Every day is a new day. Simple as that. Today gonna take care of today. How I've been. You don't ever get over. You go through.
Mm. Mm.
You never get over a death. You never get over something that happens. You
Yeah.
get through it one day at a time.
Yes,
So
sir.
every day I made a decision that you know what, today should be a little bit better than it was the day before, and it hurt
Yeah, man.
because because I have to face them when they have questions.
Yeah.
I have to face them to answer when it hurt. I have to face them when I ask them, "Do you want to talk about it?" And when they don't want to talk about it, in spite of how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
one day at a time.
One day at a
I
time.
had to I had to literally pray and say, "God, I don't know how to answer their questions, nor do I have the capacity to answer their questions because I'm seeing the images, the mannerisms, generational curses and blessings that I have to deal with." We This is what helped. Um, I had to be creative and to continue to talk.
Mm. What you mean by that?
Talk to them, love on them. Um, and in doing that, I learned that there's different levels of faith that we go through when we're able to communicate. Well, seeing them let me know that I can't die in my grief. Seeing them, talking to them, let me know that I cannot stay stuck in 2016 when it happened.
Yeah.
Seeing them lets me know that I cannot have a memorial here,
Yeah.
that life still has to live and
Yeah.
go on. That's what I mean by that. So I kept on talking. I kept on speaking love, and I kept on speaking positive, and I keep on.
Yeah.
And I keep on telling them that, hey, if you want to talk about your mother loves you, your mother loves you, we love you.
Mm-hmm.
And every single day, remind them of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the simplest version I could give you.
Man, but no, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head, man. Like people over here saying, like, man, like that's beautiful. Like it's it's and when you said it's no getting over, is going through it, right? I watched you, navigate that season, and then it seems like when grief hits or when death hits or traumatic events hit, it's also the ripple effect of what happens after that, because then there was the you know custody stuff, and that went on for yeah, so it's like, well, when do we ever really get a chance to even take a breather? Because after traumatic events, it's like you have to, like, life doesn't stop, right? it's
No,
it's one of those things where uh you know bill collectors don't care that you just had a
no,
loss. Life
no,
don't care that you just had a loss. It's one of those
no.
things where it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do and how are you going to rebound
Yeah,
from it?
yeah,
Because for a while, I think everybody know my story, but for a while, bro, like it was like the frustrating part for me was I need to pause, but life keeps going. So what do you do when you need to take that time? You feel yourself being a fraction of yourself. You feel yourself not being everything that you know that you have been or could be. But you need to take a break, but life keeps moving, and then you feel stuck, and you feel like everything is moving on, everything is moving forward, but it's like I'm still stuck here, you know. And one of the things that, like, I think with grief emotions, whether that's grief of an event, whether that's grief of things that, opportunities, whether that's grief of a loved one, whether that's grief of a relationship, whatever it is, I think number one, we have to allow ourselves to feel. We
yes,
have to really, really, really give ourselves permission to feel. Guys, if you're taking notes, this is, I know you've been taking notes of what everything that Pastor Chris has been saying, but also I want you to add to the fact that, like, allow yourself to feel. Stop telling yourself that oh, I gotta pull it together, or oh, I gotta in our terms, you gotta man up. You know what I'm saying? Like, although I watch Pastor Chris navigate through that season, be the father figure, be the one to put the funeral together, be the one to preach the funeral. And he preached. That boy preached like ain't nobody's business. I was there for his niece's funeral that Pastor Sid's. I was there he did that eulogy amazingly. And then his sister's funeral amazingly. And he was there for all the funerals of my fathers too. So, like, we've been through this navigation together. But one thing that I watched Pastor Chris do, was to allow ourselves at times to feel. Now, there were times where we felt we needed to keep pushing, but there were times where, like, because and and I'm gonna be, these sessions are for 100% honesty. One of the things that broke my heart was when we were still believing God for a miracle, even after we were still believing God for a miracle, because
yep.
I believe that God still works miracles. To this day, I believe God still works miracles. And we were believing God for a miracle. And a lot of times what tends to happen is that when God doesn't do the miracle in the way that we feel that he should have, we oftentimes overlook that he's still working a miracle,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so like we want him to do the miracle the way we want him to do it, but then he chooses to do the miracle the way he wants to do it. It doesn't negate the fact that it's still a miracle.
Yeah.
Like,
That's so good.
go ahead, bro.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So and this is for those of us who are in ministry or those who are believers that feel like we have to say something or do something and all this other stuff to what you just said. I said this last night. I had to preach last night, but it speaks volumes to where we have been and believing God for a miracle. What do you do when the word doesn't have a word for you?
Mm. Mm.
What do you do when the word doesn't have a word from you? For you, God, we believed you for a miracle.
Yes, sir.
We trusted in you. We have
Sir.
faith. Watch this. There were people in worse conditions and predicaments that you saved.
Yes,
And you
sir.
let this happen?
Yes, sir.
How do you continue when the word doesn't have a word for you?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
then wrestle if we're honest, because a lot of times church has taught us to wear a mask. So when real stuff happens and we're believing for a miracle, we keep the mask on and don't really tell the people, God, and ourselves that we really hurt. It hurt me that you didn't do this for me. It hurt that you allow somebody with the worst situation that we done did everything for, and they still living and breathing.
Yes, sir.
And you have the unmitigated gall to take someone who was at least trying and striving,
Yeah.
but
At
life
least
happened.
at least attempting.
Attempted.
Yeah.
And what do you say to the word when the word doesn't have a word for you?
Man. That's good, bro. So what can we do in those situations? Because Chris, I'm gonna tell you, man, like that's where I was like when Anthony, with
Yeah,
my brother with lung cancer, um
yeah,
I really felt like God was going to save him. I really felt like, well, let me heal him the way I wanted to heal. I wanted him to be healed.
right,
That's what,
right, right,
and a lot of times I think that one of the things that we have to understand, there are levels to our grief. And we're going to talk about PGD in a minute, prolonged grief disorder. But but I think a lot of times we're grieving the loved one, but then we're also grieving the fact that God didn't do it the way we thought that we would, thought
right,
he would.
right,
So we can
right,
become so in love with the way that we thought God was going to do a thing that we
right,
marry ourselves to that. And
right,
then if God doesn't do it the way we thought that he should, then there's another layer of grief that we have to go through, being that we have to grieve our our idol of healing, like because we created an idol out of it, of how we thought God was going to do it.
right,
So you're
right.
so it's a double layer because you're grieving the person, but you're also grieving your plans.
Exactly. This is what I'm learning and what I have learned is that when that happens, what do we do? That's the question that you ask, especially when it doesn't make sense, especially when Anthony was going through the lung cancer piece. Here's the best answer I've learned and I'm learning. We have to be patient and we have to wrestle.
Yes, sir.
Genesis 32:22 talks about how Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord all night long.
Yes, sir.
Think about this. The angel of the Lord was wrestling with the man. And a lot of times we look at that and we say, you know what? The angel could have overtook him, but we never talk about the strength of Jacob for them to wrestle all night long.
Yes, sir.
And what this is what happened as he wrestled. there was no words until the end. The Bible says that when Jacob got the best of the angel, that's when the angel hit his socket. And he said, I will not let you go until you bless me.
Yes, sir.
It's in the wrestling that we don't say nothing. We just be in the contention. We be in the tension and we deal with the tension and we stay in the moment until, watch this, he hit our socket.
Hmm.
And we say, I will not let you go until you bless me, because watch this, how you came in is not how you gonna leave.
Yes, sir.
And it's in the wrestling that gives us the mental fortitude, the perpetual amount of heart to say, you know what? I have to deal with my grief and how I feel right now. It's okay for me to feel how I feel, but I'm gonna wrestle through this until I have a word to stand on.
Yes,
And
sir.
sometimes the word that I have to stand on is, Lord, hit me where it hurt so that I can walk out of here different. I might have to limp, but you blessed me after I came out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where, men are good with facts, but we're not good with telling our feelings. And it's not until we have the wrestling that we're able to really say how we feel. Man, that junk hurt. I can tell you all day, man. Here are the facts, man. You good, I'm good, bro. You straight, you straight. Those are facts.
Yeah.
But if we start digging back and start pulling up the roots, nah, bro, I'm hurt.
Yeah.
This hurt me.
Yeah.
This situation really hurt. And I really wanted to revert back to what I'm accustomed to reverting back to.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
I
we
hope
find,
that makes sense.
yeah, no, like, bro, that makes perfect sense. And then we find, I want to touch on this real quick because we got another questions that I want to cover, but um, there there are two aspects of this that I want to cover. That in our grieving process, for one, I believe that when someone dies, we talked about this, like it's just a new normal that we just step
Absolutely.
into. Like it's no, like you said, it's no getting over it, it's getting through it. And then you get through it and realize that, yo, like this is a lifelong journey for the remainder of your life. Um, but I want to talk about two things. What do we do for coping? Because it's very easy to fall into um toxic traits of coping with grief. Like we find coping mechanisms, like you just alluded to when you said we go back to certain things, right? um
Right.
that that's a means of coping because it's like, oh, I feel safe there. It could be an ex, it could be old sexual patterns, it could be drugs, it could be whatever. We'll find something that we tend to connect to from a coping place. But then also number two, so what do we do, like, or how do we help with the coping process? But then number two is, like, I'm learning, and well, I've learned, let me say this. I'm gonna put an ed at the end of it. I've learned that we have to be very careful and very cautious about who we befriend and who we connect to while we're grieving.
Come on, Davis.
Bro, bro, when I tell
I'm about
you,
to say this computer.
listen, when I tell you, because
Huh?
the enemy knows how weak our discernment is in this moment because we want to be felt and heard and loved. Your discernment is low when you are in need. So therefore, we tend to lock on to people and situations when we're grieving, and the enemy comes in through transition. So whenever we're in the midst of transition, whenever our heart is open, whenever the wombs are open, whatever we may feel, we lean into that and we begin to feel that. And then we begin to connect with people, and people will come into our lives disguising as help, disguising as support, disguising as love, but in all actuality, they may, like we talked about in the beginning, they may have that Superman syndrome where they're saying, "Oh, this is a big death. I want to be around them so they can say how much I helped them or what I did for them." or they want to just sneak in at your most vulnerable moments and then turn around and use that information against you later. So
Ooh, Davis.
coping, so I partner like this: coping and company. What are we what are we doing in these moments of grief or in these moments of heartbreak? What are we doing to cope? And what type of company are we keeping? Because those are two important things that I think that we need to guard against.
So I want to talk to some real folks for just a moment.
Yes, sir. Let's talk.
Um, I will say this: um, you have to guard yourself from bodies and bottles.
I love it.
You gotta guard yourself from bodies and bottles. And here's the thing: everything you just said is so true, bro.
Yeah, man.
That's so real. And you have to, even in your moment of weakness, you have to know who really has your heart in the right place in of mind in that moment. Let me explain to you what I mean. Accountability was big for me because I know my vices. And and it's amazing that when you're going through and you're at your weakest moment, you want to release. I hope you catch what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And and the thing is, you cannot release with everybody. You can't release with the bottles, or you can't release with the bodies, because the bodies will remind you of the fact that you just said it. I was
Listen,
here for you at your time of need.
listen.
When
They
really
will
it was
remind you
a
in every chance
crutch.
they get. They
You
remind you
remember
every.
when? You remember when?
Hey, and then here's the thing: they never remind you when things are good. They remind you when things are bad. They'll throw up how they was
Now,
there,
Davis.
what y'all did, whatever. Like, yeah.
Now, Davis, that's the truth.
And it to
So,
to to me that proves motive, but that's a whole nother conversation. But you're so but bro, you're so right. Cause it is where we want that release or we want a release.
yeah, community, the right community at the right time was good for me. When you showed up, Tremaine showed up, CT showed up. BJ, AJ, BJ, Shonda, um, my people. That was my people. They're like, nah, bro, nah, bro, nah. Sherrod Gray, nah, bro. Dale, nah, bro,
Yep.
nah, bro. And watch this. That's how me and Nip got cool, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nip if she on here. I don't know if she on here,
Yeah.
but bro, like we had to grow to that, bro.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So accountability for me was needed because I know my patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
my vices, and I needed my bros that were really my bros. There's some names, Black, Jamal Black. I needed my bros in the moments, man,
Yeah.
because if I didn't, bodies and bottles would have been my portion for real, more than what it was
For sure.
at that time. Just being 100.
No, for sure. For sure. Like I and and I love that honesty because I think we all deal with whether we want to be honest about it or not. We all deal with the fact that at times, especially during grief and transition, where we are more vulnerable to the attention and to the quote unquote love and the support of other people. Your wound is open.
Yeah.
So we have to be very like and I take this from a practical standpoint. Even with grief, we say all the time, or we were raised on this, like the phrase, time heals all wounds. But in all actuality, time does not heal all wounds if it's not
Nope.
properly treated. If
Yep.
you allow a wound to be, if you get cut and it's cut deep enough, and that's what grief is, it's a deep wound to your heart. And if you're cut deep enough and it's not properly treated, eventually, whatever, if it's a cut on your leg and it's stuff is too close to it, people are too close to it, situations are too close to it, without it being properly treated, it's going to get infected. And then you're
Yeah.
going to have to amputate that leg. And we say, oh, time to heal it. No, proper treatment plus time heals it. And a lot of
Yes.
time we don't go through
Yes.
the proper treatment of addressing that woman. It goes back to what you were talking about in the very beginning, bro, where you was talking about how when your niece passed and then it still was a wound and then boom, here's Tina. So it's like that's compounded on top of each other, right? So it's one of those things where it's like you know, through my stepfather's passing, which, Pops loves you, so like
Yeah, that was my dude.
yeah, that man, like now, like bro, I have such, we were young, um, um, but I have such an appreciation for Pops now, bro. Like in retrospect, looking back at it, and I'm gonna tell you this. I haven't told you this privately, so this is gonna be different. To tell you this publicly, but it's so crazy because the when I was just down there, when I hugged Fat and when I hugged Cam, one of the things I always whisper little prayers over them every time I hug them. But one of the prayers that I prayed over them this time was that they grow into appreciation how I grew into appreciation of Pops. That they grow into an
Wow.
appreciation for you. Because I see you teaching them some of the same principles that Pops would try to teach me.
Yeah.
And and it's not until now that I appreciated him then, but now like I appreciate him so much more now. But I realized like with Pops passing, 2 months after that, my dad with the car wreck, and then 6 months after that, Anthony with the lung cancer. I realized like, I mean, I preached all of their eulogies and I was back in the pulpit on Sunday morning. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I preached their eulogies I preached my dad's eulogy on a Saturday. I drove from Chattanooga to Nashville just to go by TSU's homecoming just to go hear the band. I just went to go listen to the band because I love the band. And then I drove to Huntsville and I preached that Sunday. Um, but I realized eventually that need to keep going was a wound that was not being treated.
Facts.
And eventually in 2020, it caught up to me. It happened in 2018. In
Yeah.
2020, it caught up to me. Why? Because it was not properly treated. It was not.
Absolutely.
It was not addressed. It was not. It wasn't looked at like, oh, like, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z, or hey, you need to, like this is an emotion that you need to address and that you need to feel. It was one of those things where it was like, because we have become so accustomed as a culture to prize ourselves on keeping going.
Yes.
And I think that we should be telling people to keep going for sure. But I think we need to tell people to keep going. But when it's unbearable, take a break. Don't quit. Take a break. Because
Yes.
because we're telling people to do on on two different ends of the extremes. So we're telling them to keep going, which can be extreme if they're heartbroken and they're dealing with grief and they, and things haven't been treated. And then because we're not telling people to take a break, the other extreme is that they just quit.
Right.
Like, you know, like looking back at it, you know, I I should have taken time. I should have taken time to reset and I should have taken an extended period of time away from my church, but I didn't. What I did is that on top of my grief and on top of my pain, on top of my trauma, and then I still was grieving because, we're talking about the loss of loved ones, but I was still grieving the transition from All Nations Christian Center to Worship Assembly. I was grieving those relationships. I couldn't even
Facts.
bro, I couldn't even drive down Winchester.
Yeah.
Every day when I went to church, I would tell Drew to take the opposite way because I could not I didn't want to see that building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I still
Yeah.
was I still was wrestling with that grief. Then boom, the deaths and all of that stuff happened. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, because what we tend to do is that we tend to over spiritualize it, and we say, oh, I'm dealing with it all because we're busy. Busy does not mean that you are addressing what you feel.
That's real.
It
That's real.
does.
It doesn't. And this is how I know it's real, man. I never forget. I had just got to Dallas, Texas, man. I was supposed to preach at Antioch, but I did. Preached at Antioch that day. So it was me. The lineup was crazy, bro. I never forget it. Man, Dwayne them probably on here now. Tremaine them was on here now.
They on
Dude,
here.
right before I preached, for real, tell them I said
Uh
what's up. So
huh.
watch this. Right before I preached, that's when Mom called me and told me Pops passed. Like 30 minutes before I got up there to preach, bro. And I was so messed up, bro, because I know everything that you just set up here and said. I know how it felt to be like, dang, bro, what is bro up to? Like, is he straight? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we have been dealing with grief before. You know what I'm saying? When when granddaddy passed away, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
When
bro.
Poo Poo passed away,
Yeah, bro.
now it's like, yeah, Lee, like, bro, I was messed up on stage, bro. I don't even know what I said. I remember the Lord told me to talk about suicide. I remember that,
Yeah.
but I don't remember nothing else.
Yeah.
And bro, I was trying to make sure that, and people don't talk about the connection piece enough. I remember that, hey man, I need y'all to do something silly, do something goofy until I could get to where you were.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I had my way of decompressing to make sure I was good, that I would be charged up to be with you,
Yeah.
was I had to be in the place, in the space where I slowed down for that moment, just so I make sure, like, man, I gotta make sure my bro good. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
man.
saying?
Yeah, man.
I remember that, bro.
Yep. How just said you had that mirror, and that suicidal girl was the one who you used as
She
an
sure
example.
did.
She gave her
As
life
an
to Christ.
example,
She
she
gave
she
her
got
life to
saved
Christ.
that night.
Yeah, bro.
She got saved that night. I remember that, bro. That's the
Yeah.
only part I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's some
I
more
mean,
stuff that happened.
and, but bro, I think that from one, allowing, and as we're talking about this, I guys, I want you guys to understand the principle of also what we're saying. So we're saying like feel, but then also how important community and friendship is during moments of transition and grief. if,
Exactly.
if you're making
Yes.
transitions from a job, if you're making transitions from relationships, if you're making transitions from you losing somebody through traumatic encounter or whatever, or somebody's life being taken, whatever the case is, I think community is so incredibly important. D High's on here, Tremaine is on here, and like Tremaine, like man, like literally will show up. Like he is, he's the epitome. Because every time, like he'll just be there. You know what I'm saying? Dwayne High, same way. They're gonna show up, and that's the thing. Like you want people, and you not just want. You need people, and you need to, because here is one of the things that I want to highlight, because we can talk about people showing up, and you could be a person that shows up, but also at the same time, when people show up that are that have proven to that have proven themselves to be trustworthy, that have proven themselves to be vaults, that have proven themselves to walk through difficult times with you, allow yourself to be honest with them, because one of the biggest things is that people can show up and people can be there, but if we have not learned how to communicate what we feel, or even honest about what we feel, then they'll be there.
Yeah.
Like it's like, they'll be like a picture hanging on a wall. They're there,
Yep.
but
Yep.
how can they be of support in the areas in which that you are not willing to communicate or are not willing to
Yep.
share? And it doesn't mean that you got to share it right then, but I'm just saying, as you process in time, because
Yep.
a lot of times, in those moments, maybe you just need that presence of somebody. Maybe you just need to cry. Maybe you just need to, you know
Yep.
say nothing. A lot of times people try to force me to speak, And I'm like, I process my emotions. So I'm like, I don't have the words right then. And it may frustrate a lot of people to be like, dang, well, why you don't know what to say? But it's like, eventually, if you're around, we gonna have that talk. eventually,
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually, over time, I'm gonna open up. But it takes time and trustworthiness. And I think that we're in such a culture now that says that everything has to be done immediately, and that's not how it works. It you know
Agreed.
it takes time. It takes time. It takes time to gain that level of trust with somebody. It takes time to gain that level of transparency and vulnerability with someone. It takes time. It just takes time across the board.
Yes, sir.
Bro, how do you feel about like let's just say, well, let's just ask this so we could kind of sum it up. If you guys have any questions, make sure you go ahead and put the questions in the chat. I'm going to give you a little bit of information. You see the Cash App there. You could donate. But if you have a question, put a Q and then dash and then write your question out so I can know when I'm going back through it. I can easily identify between just a regular comment and a question. Okay. So, but Pastor Chris, where are you now? Where are you now in your journey? A few years later, um, you know,
7 years.
7 years later, uh,
Golly.
that's crazy. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. God, 7 years. Yeah, where are you,
Ren's 17, bro. She'll be 18. She'll be 18 in November, bro.
bro? When we saw her off the prom, bro, I was sitting there and I was like, for one, I was tripping because I'm looking at Tina.
You looking at Tina.
I'm looking at Tina, and
You
then I'm
you are
tripping.
literally looking at Tina.
But then I'm tripping because as I was looking at it, was like I could hear Tina in the background, like amping her up. Like it's just like, and I was like, okay, like I'm crazy. Like at this point, I'm just crazy. but man, but man, where are you now? Like, how are you feeling about everything now? Like, like where are you along your healing journey?
I wanted to show everybody. I don't know if y'all can see it. This is my niece, Serenity.
Yeah,
This is
that's
how she went to prom. This is how she went to her junior prom, which wasn't her junior prom.
it.
This is how she went and crashed somebody else's prom. That's how she went. I'm gonna show
she
one more picture.
she went
Hold on.
and shut down
She
somebody else. Yeah,
on a
scooted over,
daggone horse and carriage.
scooted over. So there we go.
All right. So Hyde and Tremaine and AD, all of us there, we just looking like, golly. So again, the reason why we're talking about community and having this particular conversation about where you are, where I am, I've had to be honest with them. Hey man, I ain't really feeling it. And you know what? Today I'm good, man. Right now I feel like I need to cry. My wife and I was talking about this last night. That typically it takes at least 2 years to go through a full cycle, a full process to fully grieve. That you'll be able to really get a handle on it. If it's just that one particular thing that you're grieving over, that compounding grief piece though, if you don't figure out how to handle that, then you never fully go through the grieving process. So then we'll still feel like now. So when I realized in my now that I'm still having certain things that I didn't talk about or deal with, I have to say, you know what? I have to process this. God, I'm gonna give this to you. I need to actually feel this. And I thank God for Dr. Steinberg, who is my therapist. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Listen, Jesus in therapy is not just the thing, man. Jesus in therapy is the healing process. We disobey the Holy Spirit when He has given us not just the comforter, the paraclete to help us, but people in the earth to help get us from where we are to where we need to be.
Yes, sir.
We have to flush our minds so that we won't stress ourselves out, man. If it wasn't for Jesus and the therapist, I've been stroked out by now, bro.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And dealing with all the things, like we still, a lot of people don't know who I am yet on here. They don't know half.
Yeah.
Or the mandate and the call on my life in the city that I serve in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And then watch this. The Woodmore bus crash happened that I'm still
man.
currently dealing with. The Woodmore Six, you know, stuff from ministry, being on TMZ World Stop. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that stuff, bro.
Yeah,
So in my moment, I'm good. In my mind, I'm straight. But in my heart, it has been I have to get my emotions in check.
oof,
To this day, I'm still getting my emotions in check
bruh.
so that I am emotionally and spiritually healthy.
Yes, sir.
Big
Yes,
facts.
sir. Yes, sir. Dwayne Hassett, as a friend that watched these brothers go through some of the worst seasons of their lives, a lot of the time I prayed and never asked questions, never disrupted their healing. Just committed them to daily prayer because these jokers don't stop.
And
Like
don't.
and don't and
And
don't
don't.
and don't and like and it's people like that, like friendships like that, bonds like that. Dwayne High has been a friend for years. For years. He at times he was the only friend I had in Huntsville, Alabama. Like, what I'm saying, in the city. Um, and so you need friends that may not be, you know, the flowers, meaning that you don't see them, but they're the roots because they're how you're still standing.
That's
And
good.
like I say this all the time, bro. Like even when it comes to you, like when I'm talking to people, like I be like, Chris, Chris is my best friend. He's literally my roots. Like y'all don't have to always see Chris. Just know I'm always talking to Chris. Like
Facts.
and even if we go 2 weeks without, well, we won't go 2 weeks without having some form of communication, whether it be like funny memes or whatever the case is. But even in those times, we need people that operate as roots. They don't have to be seen. They don't have to, you ain't got to post pictures of them on Instagram. They you just you're standing because they're there. You're alive because they're there. And then there will be people within your that's a part of your family or friends or whatever the case is that will be like, and I'm not saying be leery of them. I think they serve a purpose, but there'll be people that will be like flowers that always want to be seen. They want to show up and take the picture. But there's plenty of people, man, like we're here, we're standing, we're alive because there are people that are roots,
That's
and
good.
um and having roots within family, having roots within friendships means literally everything. Let's see. Pastor Andy said, "I hear you. My heart is still broken after my dad's passing almost 3 years ago. It hurts." Jan Mitchell said, "Yep, my mom died when I was in high school, and it still sucks sometimes. Mother's Day, the ups and downs and parts of life that we learn into our journey." And I say this for Jan and Pastor Andy. I say this, that for one, during holidays and pivotal moments, it's a thing called seasonal grief. Literally, seasonal grief is a real thing, because whenever you got Mother's Day, if your mother has transitioned from labor to reward, you're going to be at a point where you're thinking about them, and everybody's going to be celebrating their mothers, and you're going to be, those feelings you're going to be triggered. Father's Day for me, I'm typically triggered. My daughter wanted to do something for me last Father's Day. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to kind of just be alone. But you become triggered in those moments. And this is where we talk about coping as well. But find healthy ways to honor your loved ones. So while other people are celebrating their mother that is still living, and if your mother has transitioned from labor to reward, find a way to honor them, and like do their favorite thing. One of the things that I that helped me even last year when I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to be alone. My father and my stepfather, they both love to grill. I went over Brigine's auntie's house, my daughter's aunt's house. Went over Brigine's auntie house, and her husband Derek, we call him Uncle Derek. He was outside grilling. I went over there and I asked him, could I help him grill? Like, and I'm not a big cook, I'm not a big griller, whatever the case is. I did that because I wanted to do something that reminded me of my father's. So I'm saying that to say it's a way that we can still feel, because I'm not trying to get you out of the way that you feel, but you can teeter totter on that line of throwing yourself into depression by doing nothing, but find a way to honor them in a way
Right.
of something that they may do.
Right. Right. That's good.
Yeah, man. I just think that that's something like we should, like find ways to honor them. Like if ask yourself, if they still were here, what would they want to do
Right.
today? like that's like that was like, to me, that's a healthy coping.
Right.
Like you know try to find things that they will want to do today, and then
Right.
like you know in my prayer time, like it's like I'll be talking to them like, oh yeah, you would love this right here, like what I'm saying, like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
pops, this will be your thing right here, pops, like what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
it's one of those ways for us to um deal with it and not seem as though like we're going into this deep depression state,
Right.
but we're at a place of healthy reverence and
Yes.
healthy acknowledgement.
Yes.
So, bro, I appreciate you, man. Let me see if we have any questions.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me know.
okay. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in here. I'm gonna scroll up. I'm gonna see because there's people commenting. No, I don't look like. Let me see. Make sure. Okay, here's a question. Wait a minute. First, I'm gonna read High's comment. He says, "Make sure not to forget the beautiful memories as well." Yeah, we often hurt
Right.
so bad we forget how much quality time we spent together with that person. And how that leads me. I'm gonna come to this question. We got a question from Simone. Simone, I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna post your question in just one. Pose your question in just 1 second. Um, I want you guys to leave. I want you guys to, before if you get off here, I want you to understand this thought right here. That for one day I was praying and I asked God. I I was crying one night here in LA, and I asked God. I said, God, will you please take this grief away from me? I was like, I'm tired of grieving. I'm tired of feeling like this. Can you take it away? And the Lord told me, He says, if I take away the grief, I take away the memory.
Mm.
Grief is the memory of who you have encountered and who you still love. He
Mm.
says, if I take away the grief, then that means that you no longer have the memory of that person. It's almost like, and then I'm a visual person, so immediately I thought about Men in Black. Chris is a movie buff, so when they put the scope and then they wipe the memory, right? It's like I may wipe the memory and then they may stop crying, right? Oh, as soon as the memory is wiped away, oh my God, I stopped crying. Oh my God, like it was such a relief. But wait a minute, what about them? Like, and so what I had to realize was, God, I need to keep that memory. I need to keep that grief, because that's how I'm always going to remember them. And I want to remember them. I want to love those memories, and I want to remember them, and I want to think about the time that we spent and how much fun we had and the things that we did together. I want to do that. I want to do that. So let's see. I'm going to let's go into these. We got a few questions, and then we'll wrap up. Uh, question Simone said, "How do you deal with guilt, man? Feeling like you could have done more, asked the tough questions, said the hard things, um, that in turn would have delayed the inevitable. How do you? Oh man, Simone, that's a great question. Chris, you got an answer for that?
Yeah. All right, here's my Bible hat. Um, Hebrews 12, I think it's Hebrews 12 and 2. Let's just say Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. The Bible says, lay aside every weight that so easily entangles us.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy uses the guilt to put you in the place that really isn't your place to be in. Um, so you guilt will be a part of your process that will keep you stagnant because you will always feel like it's your fault. Ultimately, it's God's will and God's plan for them to be gone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What I have to come to terms with is every guilt that I feel because sometimes I could have done. I said that. Man, I should have done this. I did do this. They didn't listen. And da 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 da. And it's because of this, and they didn't listen. And the guilt and the weight and the shame and the pain I felt
Mm.
for a grown person who made their own decisions. And sometimes guilt will put me in the place of God. And I'm not big enough to handle that.
Yeah.
So I
That
have to lay
concept right there.
aside
I
the
ain't big
weight.
enough to handle that.
I'm not big enough to handle that.
Yeah.
And the pressure, the stress that we put on ourselves is saying, I'm sitting on the throne of what God supposed to sit in this situation.
Yes, sir.
I have to forgive me and release me from the guilt that I feel.
Yeah.
And if need be, I need a proxy to somebody to stand in place, or I stand in place of somebody to really tell how I feel to be released so I won't handle the guilt. The dude said when the lady was talking bad to him at the hotel, and he said, it's above me now.
Yeah.
It really has to be above me.
Yeah.
Because if I hold that guilt, then I'm gonna hold somebody else's guilt, and I'm gonna hold all this weight and pain and struggle and agony.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna find myself stressing out. I already dealt with Bell's palsy. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Heartache, all that stuff will come.
Yeah.
For what? Loose it and let it go.
That's it. That's it. That's good, bro.
And ask God to give you peace in the middle of you feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Ask God to give you peace in the middle of the guilt.
Yeah, man. That's real good. We got another question too, that says, does how a person die affect how we grieve?
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
I definitely think so. I think we're gonna grieve regardless. You know, it's a transition. It's you missing a loved one. It's you. You know, it's love. I read this meme and it said grief is love that doesn't have a place to go. Like you want to love this person
Mm,
and you can't really love that person, right? You're gonna have that regardless of that loss. But how they transition definitely plays a part in the magnitude of the grief. Yeah, for sure. So with my stepfather was he had been on dialysis. Mom, quote me if my mom on here, but quote me if I think it's 22 years, somewhere around there. She'll put it in the chat. Um, but like literally, like my stepfather was a miracle. Period. like 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 he battled through some difficult times dealing with dialysis and kidney failure and things of that nature. We knew like his health was declining. We saw his health declining. Um, but then also, yeah, okay, 18 years. 18 years. He was on dialysis for 18 years and worked every day. Like, like,
Wow.
yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Would leave dialysis, and then he was a massage therapist, and he would go, and I remember his hands would be hurting. He had the tube in his arm. You know, like he was a miracle, man. He was a miracle. And so, but when my father passed due to a car wreck, it the the grief factor, it was different. It was different, and it still is. Um, that one still is a hard one for me to because and this is where I'm gonna parallel what Pastor Chris was saying to the previous question. I had to I've consistently had to address it and say it's above me now, because your mind will start to go into what pain they felt. Like it was a car wreck. Like did he suffer? Like you start to, and then that guilt of, oh, we should have had these conversations. And so my thing with that is that if there is anybody in your life that you wish you had a stronger bond with, don't wait till they dead to wish you had a stronger bond. Start creating it now. Like a lot of times we may have guilt or shame because there's certain things that the Holy Spirit is prompting us to do that we're not doing. And we're allowing our emotions and our anger to get in the way of our own level of obedience. We got to get out of that. All right. Another question was, did anyone seek counseling? What were some benefits? For sure, both of us.
Still there.
Still there.
Still there.
Still there.
Still
We're
there.
Yeah. Uh, and I think the benefits are you addressing how you feel and you being honest about how you feel, and allowing yourself to live in the truth and not feeling bad about how you feel. My mom is in counseling. I'm in counseling. Chris is in counseling. Like we're all there. Like,
Yeah.
and um and I think that that's that's needed. I
Yeah.
think it's needed across the board.
Yeah. My wife made me go.
Yeah, and and also too, I think that that's like my my brother. I'm talking about Chris. My brother married an amazing woman that is concerned about, hit not just his ministry assignment, but his life assignments.
Yeah.
So when people are so enamored with what you do and how you perform, they really don't care about like your life. Like just show up and do what you do. And as long as you do that well, and here's the thing, when you are a preacher, when you are a pastor, when you are in ministry, whatever the case is, it's almost muscle memory. You can get up there and you can do it. You can preach it. You can talk it. You can say it. You can shout to people. People have a great time, and you can be used by God. But here's the caveat: you could be used by God in those moments because God is so concerned about His people that He won't allow your he won't even allow you at times to even bleed on the people because he cares so much about them. But it becomes our responsibility to take care of ourselves and to do
Yep.
for ourselves so that we show up as our best selves.
Yep.
Um, Chris, here's a question. I think we got two more and then we're done. Um,
Okay.
should we grieve loss, job, relationship, opportunity, etc., as we grieve death, or should it be less weightier? That's a great question.
That's a very great question. It depends. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Sometimes they can be just as equal, depending on the actual career opportunity. If you went to school for it and something happened, it could be you thought this was the one
Yeah.
and you wanted to, marry them, you know what I'm saying? And You didn't realize that if you would have married them, it would look like, you know what I'm saying, everything was put together. But any great relationship, assembly is required. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah, man.
So you will grieve all these things. Can they be equal? Yes. But then you have to start processing and say, is this worth me grieving over now? Do I allow this to stay in my head, or do I allow this to hit my heart?
Mm. Yes, sir.
Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Because some things it can hit my head and I can grieve it and I can process it and keep it moving. But if it hit my heart, I stay there too long and it's be hard for me to get out the bed because of this particular thing.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So
That
is
makes
is
perfect.
is it a heart thing or is it a head thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Last question. From Cynthia. Shout out to Cynthia White. I love her. She said, should I wait a minute, hold on, let me read this right. Should I bring up my condolences on anniversaries of death of a loved one, or should I wait for them to bring it up? I want them to know that I remember and that I care.
I will ask, you good? How are you today? You want to go for some ice cream? Let's just kick it. I wouldn't even bring it up, but just be present.
Yeah.
Being mindful is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you never know what state a person is in the grieving process. Sometimes some people really want to forget, and you reminding them will take them back to a place, and you have to walk with them out of that particular place in a way that if you never would have brought it up, they probably wouldn't have responded that way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So just being patient with a particular loved one, XYZ, is helpful. I hope that makes sense.
Does. That makes sense. And I'll just co-sign that, and I'll say, just being present, just, and then, maybe, if they don't want to, let's say, like, if Chris was like, bro, you want to go get some ice cream, or you want to, hey, bro, let's go down to let's go down to here, or let's go here, let's go here. If they choose not to, you got to be okay with that too. You just be like, okay,
Right.
cool, all right, cool. I was just I was just checking on you. Yeah, I was just making sure you was all right, type of situation. And then from there, but they at least know that mindfulness, that person is there. And then they probably will hit you and be like, yo, man, today was just difficult, you know. And then they will share that. They will open up on their own about that. And so I think we'll allow that to happen. But guys, I hope that tonight helped you. I hope that, I just wanted this to be a transparent, honest conversation. We're not, we use some scriptures, we made biblical reference, but I think my biggest thing is that I didn't want to over spiritualize it. You have every right to feel what you feel, but we also have scripture and we have relationship with God to be
Right.
present. First Thessalonians talks about that we don't grieve like people with no hope, right?
Right.
And so we have a hope, but at times it's hard to trace that because of
Right.
how much we feel it, but but also I wanted to do this for you all to know that how you feel, you're not alone.
Right.
Some of them, bro, as oh, wait a minute, hold on, I'm sorry, Jillian, I'm sorry, I overlooked it. Hold on. She said, hold on, before y'all go, y'all forgot my question. Hold on, let me scroll up. I don't know if I snapped a picture of it. Oh, here we go. So, Chris, be mindful of this question, and then this will be our last one for the night. My father was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. For one, we're sorry to hear that. I'm terrified, but I'm also trying to be strong as well because I'm seeing the changes in him. How do I continue to show up for my dad and be present without feeling so sad and helpless?
Wow.
Wow. Wow. So I'll start off like this. For one, we talked about earlier, and Chris, I want you to chime in with this one. But we start off earlier talking about how, like, you can be believing and we have faith, right? And so I understand what you feel, but I don't want your feelings to trump your faith. And when we are in these moments where, excuse me, when we're in these moments of extreme, when we're in these moments of extreme, maybe the possibility of doubt, the possibility of uncertainty, and you have health scares and so forth and so on. For one, it's our job to, I believe, I'm not going to throw that out. I believe it's our job to remind those that are going through the health scare of how good God is and how good God has been. I think it becomes our mandate, our responsibility to to remind them of how good God is and how good He's been, because that keeps us out of the helpless category. I'm not helpless because I have a God that can do anything and I can talk to Him. So then that's where our faith begins to put into activation. But then I think on the practical side, you have every right to feel how you feel. And I'm not going to tell you to become a robot around your father, and I'm not going to tell you to front, and I'm not going to tell you to fake it. But I am going to tell you is that you want to be a ray of hope and a ray of sunshine to somebody that may be feeling hopeless themselves. And so reconditioning them or repurposing them to their relationship with God can be very, very, very key, and also be very encouraging. Um, you know, I remember when my grandmother was going through her cancer situation. My grandmother was in the hospital for 72 days. I remember that. Poo was in the hospital for 72 days. And honestly, I didn't want to go up to the hospital. I hate the hospital. I didn't want to go up there, and I didn't want to see her like that. And I remember I went up there, and you had to know my poo. Like my grandmother, we called her poo. Her name was Pearl, but you had to know her. She was very feisty, just like older people. You know, when you get older, you start not caring about anything you say. And so I remember I went up there and she held my hand and she said, "Hold my hand while I run this race." And I held my grandmother's hand and it broke me down. I just started crying. And my grandmother made it out the hospital after my grandma my grandma made it out the hospital. My grandma made it out the hospital and lived years after that. But I remember she told me, she said, I said, you know, when you told me to hold your hand, you know, I just started crying. She was going through some pain. She said, "Nigga, I don't need you to remind me I ain't feeling well." She said, "Nigga, I don't need you to remind me I ain't feeling well. I know that." She said, "You come in here talking to me about anything else." And in that moment, I was like, man, I think I'm putting more emphasis on this than she is. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
before Chris answers, ML6 is on here, and ML6 went through the same process with her father,
Yes.
Jillian. So I want you to read. ML6 says, "Just love on him. Say all you need to say every time you see him. Your feelings matter and can't be ignored. Take moments either before or after you see him to continue to show up for him daily the best way you can." She went through that, she went through that process. Her father transitioned from labor to reward. Amazing man. And she went through that, through that same thing with cancer. But um but I'll say this, man. Like when my grandmother told me that, when my grandmother said, "I don't need to be reminded of that I'm going through it. I'm the one going through it." She said, "I just wanted you to, be here." And she said, "Nigga, I don't need to be reminded." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right," you know. And so it broke up the monotony of trying to feel like I had to do something, you know. But Chris, what would you say to that, bro?
I would say it doesn't have to be either or. You can feel and deal in both. Um, and you have to start thinking through and just being present and start asking, what would you like God to do? Because
Mm,
sometimes we could hold someone here through our own lens when they be like, man, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm ready to go to glory.
yeah.
I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Or they're gonna get in faith, and that'll build your faith, just like you said with Poo Poo. Like when Poo Poo said that, it builds your faith.
Yeah.
You know, we have to listen to them and build from there and tell them, like Six said, everything that we feel and vice versa. But then really listen to where they are,
Yeah.
because sometimes people who are prepared will get you prepared for their transition
Ooh-wee.
for here or for glory. But we
Bruh,
have to pay attention.
bro, you
I
said,
learned this. I learned this, man.
woo.
And this blessed me. Mama is still here, but all my life, Mama been preparing me for one day she gonna be leaving, bro.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna always be here, so you need to learn this.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna always be here, so I need you to do X, Y, Z. The reason you need to learn how to cook, because just in case you're not married or whatever the case is, you need to learn how to cook for yourself. I ain't gonna always be here. That's one thing she has done, and now I'm thinking through that lens, like, man, listen, a great man prepares his family for his death. A great woman prepares her family for her transition. So if they haven't, ask the questions, see where they are, in whatever moments you have left, or whatever God's will is for their life, love them in that place
Yeah.
and love you in that place and forgive you for even feeling how you feel. You
Yeah.
can feel it. It's not an either or. You can feel both and still trust God in the process.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's, bro, and I say this, and we're gonna go on and get off. But Pops did that. Pops recorded. My mom found my stepfather was not a very technical person at all. Like his computer, I mean his iPad. He had an iPad. Was it his mom? Was he recording on his iPad? He had got an iPad for something, and literally he recorded videos to all of us. Like we have videos of him telling us like how proud he is of us in his death. He left messages to all of us. Like he was working third shift. He would be at work and he would record himself talking to us because he knew his time was coming. When I moved my mom and my stepfather to Huntsville, my stepfather, Pops, he did not unpack his stuff. He just
I
didn't
remember.
unpack his stuff. And my mom was like, she was fussing out, you need to unpack your stuff. You need to unpack your da da. And he just wouldn't unpack. And one of the things that he told me, he said, I can rest now because I know you always going to take care of your mom. And we found these videos 2 years later.
Wow.
we found these videos 2 years later. So I say that to say in conjunction with what Pastor Chris said, like they'll prepare you and they will leave these breadcrumbs, to be like, yo, I want you to know I love you and I'm here for you. And it's all good. And so yeah, like Pastor Chris, they was talking about how good it was that you said that. Yeah, they ain't here talking about that. They will prepare you
Wow.
for the transition.
What you said.
They will. They will.
What you said.
So, guys, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this session, this good grief session. I do believe that we find healing and finding the good in the midst of the grief. And
Yes. Great.
so, if this bless you in any way, you can sow a seed. We have another session on the 25th of May with two amazing women. One woman that's going to be on the session, she just did a TED talk called Good Grief, and she will be on with me the 25th, that Thursday, same time. Pastor Chris, everybody talking about thank you so much. So I want to thank my brother, my best friend. Man, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for your
Thank you
transparency.
for having me, bro.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your transparency and honesty, bro. It's always a good time we link up. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
what you said. What you said. You like to talk about this stuff. I was like, ah, 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 ah. All right. You just get on at any given moment. You know what I'm saying? You turn on
Yeah.
Instagram with some today friends. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, we gonna go in. Not me. I don't
Yeah.
want to share.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm the
what a
vault
show.
friend.
Yeah.
I'm the vault friend, doggone it. We'll talk about that later. That's a whole other conversation. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but man, bro, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for
I
talking about
appreciate you.
such a sensitive topic,
Yes,
and
sir.
all of that, man. So I just appreciate you. Shout out to D High, Tremaine on here.
Yo, yo, yo.
So shout out to the bros. We
Yo.
appreciate y'all, man. We love y'all so much. My mama said, my boys.
Yeah. Hey, mama. Happy Mother's Day, mama.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy early Mother's Day, Mom. So yeah, man. But bro, I thank you so much. I also tell my sister, I said thank you for allowing you to have this time away because y'all could be cuddled up watching. Did y'all
Yeah.
finish the Bridgerton series the other
And
night?
did. We binged it. And
Oh
did. And did. You late?
yeah, yeah,
She
y'all
went to go
listen.
give me a slush.
Oh, she did.
Because I was feeling some type of way. She went to go give me a slush. She already
Uh,
knew.
look,
Yeah.
listen. She already knew. She
Yeah.
went. What you get? Pineapple.
You already know. Ooh. Yes, sir. Hey, we gotta do a relationship joint. We gotta come back and do a relationship joint, and we
We
can
do,
we can get
bro.
real.
We do,
Oh,
bro.
good grief!
Look. D High said this. How you could tell they real brothers. Listen to this combo.
If you only knew.
So, but yeah, bro. So, y'all. I haven't started Bridgerton, and Chris been telling me I need to get on Bridgerton. I have not started that
Listen,
series yet. So
listen.
Chris has been getting on to me, telling me I need to start the Bridgerton series. So, y'all, we gonna see what's up. He always refers good series to me anyway. Um, yes, I'm doing it again on the 25th. We have two women on talking about grief and how they have dealt with their own grief, but then also how they've catered to the black men in their life concerning.
Wow.
And so, Pastor Chris, we'll have you back on because I want us to talk about how black men cope, you know,
Yes.
with grief, and maybe then we can see if D High and Tremaine to jump on with us um,
Yeah.
for that one and how we've all kind of dealt with that. So
Yes,
um,
sir.
yeah, it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good. And so again, thank you, bro. Thank y'all for being on.
Thank you, bro.
Again, you see the Cash App and and so we would love to like whatever seed that you have, we want to sow something, and we're super grateful so we can keep this thing rolling, keep this thing going. But man, we love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part. Thank you guys for being on, and we look forward to doing it again. All right, talk to you guys soon. All right, bro.
Oh, we.
Hoo
That
wee.
thing was good.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
we.